Hey there, super sober heroes. It's your host, Sober Steve, the podcast guy, and welcome to Gay A, the super sober hero show. I am so grateful to be here today with 1,286 days of sobriety and kicking off a month of December of bringing you back to some additional episodes from the vault as the holidays pick up with work, family life. I have tons of amazing content in the past that I'm going to not only reintroduce to some newer listeners, but also revisit with my new perspective because, for instance, this week we're going to be talking about zodiac signs and addiction because one of my first handful of episodes I did as solo episodes was about astrology and addiction based off of an article that I had found that referenced the zodiac signs most likely to be an alcoholic and what that looked like for the different signs. I'm going to include that short 9-minute episode into this episode so you can hear it. It was fun, but also revisiting it, I'll give you some additional thoughts on that. I found a supplemental article because when I first started off, my addiction, as many of you know, is alcohol. Of course, once you have alcohol in me, I'll take anything or anyone else in me as well. But alcohol is my drug of choice. However, I found an article that also states it's like based off of your zodiac sign, what drug you're most likely to be addicted to. So in addition to hearing about the zodiac signs most likely to be alcoholic, I will also then add onto it my updated thoughts on that, as well as some new fun things that you can explore and see if any of it vibes with you about zodiac signs and other addictions. So I will let you enjoy the episode from the vault, and then I'll check back in afterwards with some updated hot takes on it all. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Gay A podcast about sobriety for the LGBT plus community and our allies. I'm your host, Steve Bennett Martin. I am an alcoholic, and I'm grateful for the changing of the seasons. As of this recording, I am 105 days sober, and today I wanted to share my thoughts on a fascinating article I found about alcohol and astrology that was the result of a conversation I was having with my coworker. My coworker is very into astrology, and we were talking about moon signs because I know I'm very much a Leo, and I am the stereotypical Leo. I wasn't sure what my moon sign was. Ends up it's in Aquarius. And my coworker, who knew me when I was drinking, said that the combination seems appropriate for my addictive personality and the way that I acted when I would drink, which I found an interesting comment to make. So I did some more research. And across the websites, the majority of this information was found from psychreal.com. But I found an article on the correlation between astrology and alcohol. Now, like all things with astrology, these are generalizations, so I don't mean to offend anyone. If you hear something about you that you don't like because of your zodiac sign, just know that these are stereotypes, they're generalizations, they are not necessarily what you have to be or what you are. The zodiac signs most likely to be alcoholic, I found, are water signs. Those are Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. They are known as the dipsomaniacs. And when I read that word, I had to look it up, and it ends up that's just a very fancy word for saying alcoholic. So if you ever get tired of calling yourself an alcoholic and you want to sound a little bit fancier, you can always say you're a dipsomaniac. But these drinkers are more likely to get sentimental and get the feels when they drink. Pisces especially usually needs a babysitter when drunk, or they're likely to do ridiculous acts. Normally, they're powerful and competent people who feel they're invincible when they're under the influence. So that's when you get someone who can feel like they can fly, so they'll try and jump off a building if they're not being babysat. Of course, that's a very extreme example. Meanwhile, Cancers are the most likely to become alcoholic of all the water signs and are binge drinkers. They are most likely to be the ones who drink until they puke and then go on to drink some more. Meanwhile, Earth signs, Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn, are generally considered mean drunks. They're more robust in general, and when it comes to alcohol, it means they typically have better alcohol tolerance. You never want to have a drinking contest with one of these people because they will appear to be sober even as you're having trouble catching up with them. The biggest way to tell that they are drunk is the change in personality. They become mean drunks. Capricorns especially become vulgar or snobbish when drinking. Otherwise, they can appear sober, and all earth signs are usually really emotionally suppressed when they're sober. So when they do drink excessively, they let it all out in very unhealthy ways. Now, getting to my part, the fire signs, Leo, as well as and Sagittarius, we are the drama queen or kings of the drunks. We are always the center of attention, or we like to be, and while we're less violent and cynical when we drink, our rebelliousness skyrockets. Leos, in particular, are known to have a high tolerance. BAC that would kill an elephant sounds like a good night, which I can certainly relate. I know that I was able to drink more without the negative consequences of alcohol, which ended up biting me in the ass as I became an alcoholic, or was always an alcoholic, but became more degenerative in the disease process. We also become downright clownish. We're likely to have huge philosophical conversations that don't make a lick of sense to anyone but us. Meanwhile, Aries is another sign that typically needs a bodyguard or a babysitter when they're drinking. With their raw power they naturally have, it leads them to more hazardous acts in an effort to show off. And all fire signs are more vulnerable to accidents when drinking, which I can certainly relate to. I always thought that I was just prone to bruise easily, that I had skin like a peach. It ends up that no, it's just I was prone to drinking in heavy amounts and then bumping into things left and right. Very hard, which would give me the bruises. In my sobriety, I don't have a single bruise on me right now, while I used to be covered in bruises from my times drinking. And lastly are the air signs. Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. They are less likely to consume alcohol or become alcoholic. Libra especially is least likely to drink. They are typically so interested in maintaining their composure that they are afraid of what effects the alcohol might have on them. So when they drink, they're more likely to become confused and desperate. Gemini are similarly typically all about appearances, and alcohol is a gaping hole in their armor, leading them to spill dark secrets or cause problems among people when they are drinking. And Aquarius are notoriously messy when drunk. They are the type that they'll be unable to tell time, and they're too busy talking to walls to talk to you, which seems a little bit extreme, but we've all been to some extreme or another when drinking. That's a brief summary of what I've learned through doing my research on astrology and alcohol.
So getting a chance to look back on that conversation that I had with myself and all of you years ago, I definitely still relate to what that was like for me as a Leo when I drank. I definitely can speak more from the Leo experience, and just anything where people know zodiac signs and they find out that I'm a Leo, they always say, yep, that adds up, pretty much across any platform. So I'd love to hear what you all thought about your zodiac sign and how it related to your alcohol consumption, but also an article that's been released since that episode that I found through MSN was talking about the different zodiac signs and what their favorite drugs of choice could be and why. And I will link over the article so that you can find out the full lengthy discussions for each of them, but I will give you the Steve's Notes versions. If you are in Aries, they in this article claim that you are most likely to be addicted to speed because Aries in general has the need for speed because of their blend of confidence, impatience, and neediness. Ooh, harsh. So with Taurus, they say that you're most likely to be addicted to food or weed or both, that you have plenty of patience and determination, almost to your detriment. That taste means a lot for you, so you might go after the taste. And Gemini, they say smoking and the internet. Gemini are gems at distracting themselves when they want to avoid feelings. Most common easy ways through the internet, although many of us, I feel nowadays, can identify with that feeling of escaping through our phone or the internet. It's the sign most associated with home and family life, so they claim to be a water sign that's moody, and when they're in distress, they retreat from the outside world, and that prescription drugs and alcohol are some of their favorite ways to do. Leo is shopping, and don't look at my Amazon history. I'm not confirming or denying that this can also be a problem of mine, but what I will say is that the article states that it's due to the pleasure and creativity that we are generally led by or governed by. So the fact that we have a natural magnetism and we want material items to match, splurging on ourselves and others, that can be a thing that we do. Virgos, they say, could be codependency. So being very natural gifted caretakers, you can take that to an extreme, as most addicts can do with anything. Libras, love and relationships. That's a sign of partnership and marriage, fairness and equality. So you're happiest in a healthy union, but because of that, you could find yourself in unions that aren't so happy and be striving to make them happy, and that can be difficult, I would imagine. And Scorpio, sex, because fire sign, I get it. Passionate libido. So again, you can take that to an extreme. Capricorn, they claim, would be pills and eating disorders because Capricorn's a sign of governing reputation, career, and standing in the community. Most likely to get addicted to something that can be hidden easily or at least disguised as socially acceptable. Aquarius would be video games, which is either going to be a hell yes or a hell no for most people. Our Aquarians are nonconformists who don't follow the crowd. It's an air sign that has a tendency to intellectualize their emotions, and escaping into video games could be a fun way or like a dangerous way if you take it to an extreme of going into a world that is not your own because you don't like the world that you're in. Pisces would be alcohol. They, in this article, claim to be the most sensitive, mystical, empathetic sign in the zodiac, and they make decisions based on their dreams and emotions, and they are most likely to drown their sorrows in alcohol. And that's the conclusion of all of them. Of course, like always, this is all just based off of zodiacs and stereotypes associated with certain drugs and alcohol. I did not write any of these articles. So if you read them and you vibed with them, you're welcome for doing all the research. But if you read them and you're like, I hate them, that doesn't make sense, and I'm angry. That's why I linked over to the articles in the show notes so that you can check out where they came from, because I am just did the research and I'm reporting it back to you as your friendly neighborhood podcaster. So with that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on both. Is your zodiac sign matching where you were with your drinking habits back in the day? Or was there something about the zodiac signs and what other addiction you're most likely to have that rang true to you as well? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can click send us a text in the show notes. You can email me at gayapodcast, or you can connect with us on all the socials at gayapodcast. And until next time, stay sober.